Ever feel like your team's got this hidden gear? Like there's more power under the hood if you knew how to tap into it.
Yeah, it's like you've got this race car, right?
I
But you're only driving it in first gear.
Right. We dug into uncovering and unlocking your team's potential, and seriously, it's got me thinking differently already.
I think a lot of managers, maybe without realizing it, we kind of pigeonhole people.
It's so easy to do, though.
It is. And this guide really pushes you to see beyond those first impressions. Everyone's got hidden talents, things they don't even realize they're good at yet.
Like, okay, they give this example, right? Sarah from accounting.
Mm.
Everyone's thinking, quiet, loves spreadsheets.
Sure.
But then, boom, huge project crisis. And suddenly it's Sarah who's stepping up, showing these amazing leadership skills.
Exactly. It's like those strengths, those passions, they're just simmering under the surface. And part of our job as managers, it's about unearthing those. Sometimes it takes these unexpected situations to really see what someone's capable of.
Makes you wonder who else you're underestimating right now in your own team, huh?
Yeah.
So how do you, practically speaking, how do you start to uncover those hidden talents?
Well, assessments can be a good starting point. Things like, Strength Finder.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
But even just paying attention, right? What energizes each person? What tasks do they seem to naturally gravitate towards? Those are clues.
So it's not even always about these formal assessments. It's about just being more observant.
Exactly, exactly. And then once you have a better sense of those strengths, you got to create opportunities for people to actually use them.
So it's one thing to, know it on paper, but then you got to actually apply it.
Right. You got to give people the space to experiment, to maybe even surprise themselves a little.
Okay, so how do you actually do that? How do you create those opportunities? I mean, it's got to be more than just adding another bullet point to their to-do list, right?
Right. It's about being intentional. So one strategy is something called stretch projects. These are assignments that push people a little beyond their comfort zone.
So it's still related to their role, but maybe a little more challenging, a little more responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. It gives them a chance to develop new skills, to kind of flex those muscles they maybe didn't even know they had.
So for Sarah, our spreadsheet superstar, maybe it's getting her involved in planning the department budget,
Yeah.
not just crunching the numbers, right?
Precisely. You're giving her that chance to lead, to maybe manage a team, things that wouldn't typically fall under her, accounting hat.
I love it. Okay, what else? What other ways can you shake things up a little?
Cross-functional teams, those can be amazing for this.
Oh yeah, like mixing departments, right?
Yeah. You bring folks from different areas, different ways of thinking, and suddenly, boom, you get these new ideas, new dynamics, and you might be surprised who steps up, who really shines in that environment. It's like you thought you knew what you were getting with that person, but
There's this whole other side to them.
exactly. But of course, it's not always sunshine and roses.
Right. There are always going to be some roadblocks.
Exactly. And this guide doesn't shy away from those. They talk about some of the common barriers that managers run into, things that can really hinder that potential from being unlocked.
Okay, like what? I'm sure we're all dealing with at least one of these right now.
Oh, I'm sure. So skill gaps, that's a big one.
No.
Sometimes your team, they have the potential, but they might need some extra training, some development to really excel.
Right, like you need the right tools for the job.
Exactly. And then unclear expectations. It's almost like a classic, but still trips people up.
Oh, for sure. If people don't know what they're aiming for, how can they hit the target?
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And we can't forget about motivation.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
You could have the most talented team in the world, but if they're not motivated,
It's like a car with no gas. You're not going anywhere. And then, of course, there are always team dynamics at play.
yeah, you got to have that good foundation of trust, open communication, all of that. And you know what else can really throw a wrench in the works?
Mm-hmm.
Resistance to change. Ugh. It's like trying to herd cats sometimes.
Oh, tell me about it. That's a tough one, for sure. You're trying to move forward, but it feels like you're dragging everyone through mud.
Exactly.
Ugh.
So what's the secret? How do you get everyone on board and excited about change?
Well, the guide had some good advice on this one. It's all about involving your team in the process from the get-go. Make them feel like they're part of the solution, not just, subject to it.
So it's that whole collaboration over dictation thing again.
Exactly. Nobody likes being told what to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you involve people in the decision-making, even in just brainstorming solutions, it's amazing how much more receptive they become.
Yeah, it's like they feel heard, like their
It-
opinions actually matter.
Exactly. And the other thing, it sounds obvious, but you've got to be crystal clear about why the change is happening, what's the ultimate goal, and how does this specific change help get us there. Paint that picture for them.
So it's not just, okay, team, we're doing things differently now because reasons.
Right. Give them the why and celebrate those small wins along the way.
Oh, I love that. It's like those little milestones that keep you motivated on a big project.
Exactly. Recognizing those little victories, it builds momentum, keeps the energy up. But, it's not enough to just remove the obstacles, right? The real magic happens when you shift from fixing problems to actually cultivating that potential within your team. And that's where leadership comes in.
Okay, I was just going to say, it sounds like a lot of this falls on the leader's shoulders. So what's the best approach?
Well, this guide talks a lot about something called transformational leadership.
Yeah.
And it's not just about managing tasks. It's about inspiring your team to be the best versions of themselves.
Okay, now you're talking my language. Tell me more about this transformational leadership thing. How do you actually make it happen?
So it boils down to 4 key elements, okay? Element number 1, individualized consideration. Each person on your team, they're unique, right? Different strengths, different aspirations, different things they want to learn.
Totally. It's like that saying, treat others how they want to be treated.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their own style.
Exactly. Now, element number 2, intellectual stimulation. You want your team to be thinking critically, challenging the status quo, coming up with innovative solutions. Don't be afraid to stir the pot a little.
I like it. So it's about fostering a culture where people feel safe to speak up, share their ideas, even if they're a little outside the box.
You got it. Now, element number 3 is inspirational motivation. This one's huge.
Lay it on me.
It's about painting that bigger picture, showing your team how their work contributes to something larger than themselves. Give them a sense of purpose.
So it's like connecting those individual tasks to a larger goal, right? Making them feel like they're part of something bigger.
Exactly. And that ties into element number 4, idealized influence. You've got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Your team is always watching, always learning from you, even when you don't realize it.
So lead by example. I can dig it. But let's be real. Putting all of this into practice, it can't be easy, right?
You're telling me it's definitely a journey, not a destination. But, it all starts with self-reflection. Take a good hard look at your own leadership style. Are you embodying these elements? Are you walking the walk?
And be honest with yourself.
Brutally honest. And you know what else can be really helpful? Ditch those once-a-year performance reviews.
Wait, really? I thought those were, like, mandatory in the workplace.
They are in a lot of places, but they don't have to be. And honestly, they're not always that effective. It's much better to cultivate a culture of continuous feedback.
So more frequent check-ins, more open communication about performance, good and bad.
Exactly. Those regular touch points, they help keep everyone on track, address issues before they become big problems, and most importantly, they make people feel valued.
It's like that whole open door policy thing, but you're actually, proactively going to your team.
Exactly. And you know what else can really make a difference in unlocking your team's potential? Delegation. And I'm not just talking about handing off tasks, but delegating authority.
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
I am all about empowering my team. But I will admit, sometimes it's hard to let go of that control.
Oh, I get it, believe me. But think of it this way. When you trust your team to make decisions, to take ownership of their work, you're showing them that you believe in them. And that can be incredibly motivating.
That makes sense. But what about when things don't go as planned? Because, let's be honest, that's going to happen.
Of course, it's inevitable. But instead of swooping in and taking over, try to see those moments as learning opportunities.
Easier said than done, but okay, I'm listening.
Really, help your team break it down. What happened? What went well? What could have gone better? What did we learn from this?
So it's about turning those mistakes into, like, teachable moments.
Exactly. Celebrate the initiative, even if the outcome wasn't perfect.
This has been so eye-opening. We've covered a ton of ground. Recognizing those hidden talents, breaking down those barriers, creating that culture where everyone can thrive. But, okay, how do we know if it's actually working? Like, what are the signs that we're on the right track? Give me the scorecard.
You're talking about key performance indicators, right? Your KPIs.
KPIs, exactly. But I'm guessing we need to look beyond just, like, did we hit our deadlines? Or did we make our sales goals?
You're absolutely right. We've got to dig a little deeper, especially when we're talking about unlocking potential.
Okay, so what kind of KPIs should we be looking at?
So one big one is individual growth. Are your team members taking on new challenges? Are they expanding their skill sets? Are they showing initiative? These are all really good signs.
So it's not just about, like, checking boxes on a task list. It's about seeing that actual growth, that development.
Right. And then, of course, Team performance as a whole? Has the overall productivity improved? What about the quality of work? Are you seeing more collaboration, more innovation? These are key.
It's like, yeah, are we working harder? Sure. But are we working smarter? Are we firing on all cylinders as a team?
Exactly. But we can't forget about the human element either. We've got to look at things like engagement and morale.
Okay, yeah, those are a little trickier to measure, right? It's not like you can just glance at a spreadsheet and know how everyone's feeling.
True. You can't exactly quantify it, but you can definitely get a sense of it. Things like regular pulse surveys, those can be really helpful. Just a quick temperature check to see how everyone's doing, what's working, what's not.
Yeah, like a quick check-in, no pressure. Just, hey, how you feeling? How are things going?
Exactly. And honestly, sometimes it's just about paying attention. What's the energy like in team meetings? Are people actively contributing ideas? Are they excited about the work? Those are telltale signs.
It's like you can feel it in the air, right?
Yeah.
That positive energy, that sense of excitement. And I'm guessing a more engaged team is probably more likely to stick around, right?
You nailed it. Retention rates, that's another big one. When people feel valued, challenged, and empowered, they're much less likely to jump ship.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we've implemented all these strategies, we're tracking the right KPIs, and things are looking good. How do we keep that momentum going?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It's about creating a culture of continuous learning and adaptation.
Okay, I like where you're going with this. Tell me more.
So, first off, encourage your team to never stop learning, whether it's attending industry conferences, taking online courses, even just sharing interesting articles with each other. Make learning a part of your team's DNA.
I love it. So it's like that whole growth mindset,
Yeah.
but it's not just individual, it's a team effort.
Exactly. And just as important, don't be afraid to reevaluate and adjust along the way. Those individual strengths, those team dynamics, they're not static. People change, teams evolve, so your approach needs to evolve too.
So be flexible, be adaptable, be willing to switch things up if something's not working.
Exactly. And for goodness sake, don't forget to celebrate those successes along the way.
Yes, celebrate those wins, big or small.
Exactly. Recognizing and appreciating your team's hard work, it goes a long way in keeping that momentum going.
This has been awesome. It sounds like unlocking your team's potential, it's not just a one-time thing, it's an ongoing
Yeah.
process.
It's a journey, but it's so worth it because when you invest in your team, when you help them unlock their full potential, everyone benefits.
It's so true. It's a win-win for everyone involved. Well, folks, that's a wrap on today's deep dive. We've covered a ton of ground, but hopefully you're walking away with some practical tips and strategies to help you unleash the incredible potential within your own team. Remember, even small changes can make a big difference. Start by implementing one or two things we talked about today and see what happens. You might be surprised by the amazing results.